Hello friends, I welcome you to the second lecture on construction contracts. In this lecture we are going to deal with costs related to the construction contract. So in this lecture we will discuss the meaning of construction costs, what are the various types of costs which we will be considering them as construction costs, percentage completion method, what is the meaning of percentage completion method, when we can apply percentage completion method, when we cannot apply percentage completion method, provision for expected loss. There can be situations where we expect that we are going to get a loss on completion of the contract, how to deal with that expected losses, changes in estimates, what if the estimated cost is changing, what if the estimated revenue from the contract changes, how to deal with it, situations where costs are expensed immediately. Sometimes we incur some customer costs related to the construction contract, we cannot carry it forward, we have to recognize it as an expense immediately. So we are going to discuss these things in this lecture. Let us start now. Contract costs. In our last lecture we discussed about contract revenue. In this lecture we will discuss about contract costs. Now contract costs shall comprise of three types of costs, we can say. One, costs that relate directly to a specific contract. So we can find a one-to-one relationship between the cost and the contract. So we can attribute this cost directly to a specific contract. Second type of costs which cannot be directly attributable to a particular contract, but the cost can be attributable to the construction activity in general and they can be allocated. We can say these are common costs which are incurred for various contracts together, and these costs have to be shared to the contracts for which these costs have been incurred. So we are talking about costs that are attributable to contract activity in general, and by using a systematic and rational method we can allocate these costs to the construction contract. And third type of cost is costs which are specifically reimbursable under a contract. That means if the contract does not provide for reimbursement of these costs cannot be considered as part of construction costs. So these are the three types of costs we are going to discuss now. Let us see some examples. Costs which are directly attributable to a contract, or we can say costs that are directly attributable to a specific contract. Examples: site labor costs, supervision, material which is consumed in the construction contract, depreciation on plant and machinery which is used on the construction contract, plant and equipment is taken on hire charges on plant and equipment taken on hire, cost of transporting men, material, equipment to the site and from the site, costs incurred specifically for designs, or we can say technical specifications which are incurred specifically for a particular contract. So we can say these are costs which can be directly attributable to contract. We can see some other costs: estimated costs of rectifications, guarantee work, etc., claims from third parties. Sometimes third parties are entitled to claim some extra amounts from the contract. Let us say you are constructing a transmission line and you are damaging the crop of a farmer. So farmer can claim some amount from you. So you have to pay that amount. That is also a cost which is attributable to the construction work. Sale of surplus material is reduced from costs. If you are selling some surplus material which is not used for the contract, then the sale price would be credited to the contract. The cost would be debited to the contract, sale price would be credited to the contract, the difference will automatically get booked in the construction contract only. So these are the costs which we can say are directly attributable to the particular construction contract. Next, costs that may be attributable to contract activity in general and can be allocated to specific contracts. These are common costs which are incurred not for one contract, for multiple contracts, and they can be a systematic and rational basis in which these costs can be shared among these contracts. Now what are those examples? Insurance, costs of design, technical assistance that are not directly attributable to a specific contract. Example, a builder has, let us say, many buildings under construction for various customers, and he has a centralized drawing department. So this drawing department is going to draw designs for all these buildings, and these buildings are various contracts with various customers. So this is a centralized department providing service to various contracts. We can find a systematic and rational way of distributing the design department costs to these construction contracts. Next, construction overheads. Example is given: costs of processing construction personnel payroll. Then borrowing costs. The company has borrowed money for various construction contracts in progress. Interest would be allocated to these contracts which are being run with the borrowed money. How to allocate? So how to allocate these costs which are attributable to construction contract in, we can say, costs which are attributable to contract activity in general. How to attribute them to a particular contract, how to allocate them, how to share them. The standard says you have to find a systematic and rational method of allocation, and you have to apply that method consistently. Apart from that, the second requirement is based on normal level of activity, you have to share the cost to the various contracts. Now, What are the costs that are excluded? These costs cannot be considered as construction costs. Examples are given here. Administration costs which are not specifically reimbursable under the contract. Research and development costs which are not specifically reimbursable in the contract. Selling costs. These costs we can say are excluded from the construction costs. Then depreciation of idle plant and equipment that is not used on any particular contract. So if you have idle plant and equipment which is not being used on any contract, in such case that depreciation on idle plant and equipment will not be considered as part of construction costs. Next, costs incurred for securing a contract. Let us say a company is incurring some costs for securing a contract. If the cost can be identified, if it can be reliably measured, and it is probable that the contract would be received, in such cases, such costs can be considered as part of construction costs. Okay, you can consider it as part of contract cost. You can debit it to P&L account. You can debit it to the construction contract. Okay, so the point is very clear. You should be able to identify. You should be able to measure it reliably. It is probable that the contract would be received. Then in such case, standard says yes, you can treat them as costs specifically attributable to the contract and include it as part of contract costs. But if it is not possible to identify the cost with the contract, you are not able to reliably measure it, and it is not probable that the contract would be received, in such cases, the better procedure would be to debit these expenses to the profit and loss account and not treat them as contract costs. In the past, in any accounting period, if such costs of securing the contract have already been debited to P&L account, they cannot be removed from the P&L account and now treat them as contract costs. So you cannot reverse whatever accounting you have done for these type of costs in the past, and then you cannot say that now I will treat them as contract costs. That means, if let us suppose for obtaining a construction contract during the current year, you have incurred some costs and you have debited to P&L account. Subsequently, on receiving the contract, now you want to treat it as construction contract. You want to treat it as contract costs. That is not possible. So that is not allowed by the standard. So I hope it is clear for you. Next, recognition of contract revenue and contract costs. So this is the basic question which the standard wants to answer. So the standard says if the outcome of the contract can be estimated reliably, if you can estimate what is going to be the outcome can be profit or loss. If you are able to estimate the outcome reliably, in such cases the standard says you can follow percentage completion method. What is percentage completion method? Every year we have to find out the cumulative percentage of completion, and this cumulative percentage of completion has to be applied to current estimates of contract revenue and current estimates of contract costs to arrive at the amount of revenue and cost to be recognized with respect to that contract in our financial statements. So let us say contract revenue is 100 and we come to a conclusion that 50% of the work is complete. So out of 100 into 50%, we can recognize 50 as contract revenue. But out of this 50, if some revenue has already been recognized in the previous accounting period, let us say 10 has been recognized as revenue in the previous accounting period. So we will say cumulative revenue which can be recognized as 50 minus 10 which has already been recognized, remaining 40 can only be recognized during the current year, and current year cost would be matched to the contract revenue and profit would be booked. So what standard says is, if outcome of the contract can be estimated reliably, cumulative percentage of completion would be applied to current estimates of revenue and current estimates of cost to arrive at revenue and cost to be recognized in the profit and loss account. That means, to the extent of work done, we are going to recognize revenue. To the extent of work done, costs have to be recognized. To the extent of work done, profit also has to be recognized in the year in which activity has been done. That is called as percentage of completion method. Okay. Now, in percentage of completion method, the standard also gives a very important rule. It says at any stage of completion, if you expect that we are going to get a loss, then it has to be provided. Irrespective of whether you are getting a profit this year or you are getting a loss. If you know that in future when the contract is going to be completed or you expect that this contract is going to get a loss for us, you have to provide for that loss immediately. You cannot postpone recognition of those losses. Now, fixed price contract, when can outcome be estimated reliably? Now question may arise, when can I estimate the outcome reliably in the case of fixed price contract? Standard gives an answer. If these conditions are satisfied, we can say confidently that the outcome of the contract can be estimated reliably. What are those conditions? Contract revenue, total contract revenue should be measurable reliably, first condition. Second condition, it is probable that economic benefits associated with the contract will flow to the entity. That means I am going to get the benefits from the contract. Third, I am able to reliably measure, I am able to identify, measure the costs which are required to complete the contract. I am also able to measure the stage of completion at the end of the year. And the last point is I am able to find out what are the various costs which are attributable to the contract. I am able to measure them reliably so that I am able to compare the costs which have already been incurred with the cost which was budgeted. So when these points are satisfied, we can say that the outcome of the contract can be estimated reliably, and you can apply percentage completion method. Total revenue should be measurable reliably. You should be able to estimate the stage of completion, and you should be able to estimate what is going to be the cost to complete the contract. Third, we should be confident that economic benefits related to the contract is going to flow to the entity. Fourth, we should be able to identify what are the various costs which are going to be incurred to complete the contract. We should be able to measure them reliably so that we are able to compare cost incurred with cost budgeted to understand whether we are going to get a profit or loss. So when these points are satisfied, we can say the outcome of the contract can be measured reliably, and you can apply percentage completion method. If these points are not satisfied, then we will say the percentage completion method cannot be applied because outcome cannot be estimated reliably. Now, when can outcome be reliably be measured? In the case of a cost plus contract. So when can you say that the outcome of a contract can be measured, estimated reliably in the case of a cost plus contract? So in such cases, the standard has only two conditions. If these two conditions are satisfied, we can say outcome can be estimated reliably. First condition is economic benefits with respect to the contract are going to flow to the entity. It should be probable that economic benefits will come. More likely than not, we are going to receive the benefits. Second, you are able to identify what are the costs which are going to be incurred for completion of the contract. You are able to reliably measure them. In such cases, when these 2 points are satisfied, we can say that yes, the outcome of the contract can be measured, can be estimated reliably, and I can apply the percentage of completion method. Now, methods of determining stage of completion. So how can I determine the stage of completion? The standard gives us 3 options. One is physical completion method. Let us say we are talking about a road construction activity. So we can physically measure with the tape how much of the work has been done. So we can apply the physical proportion of the work. Let us say the contract is for construction of a 10-kilometer road. You have completed 1 kilometer of road. We can say 1/10 of the work has been completed. That is physical proportion method. Survey method. Sometimes the work is very technical. It cannot be measured physically. Let us say construction of a dam. If I want to estimate what is the percentage of completion for a dam, it may not be possible without the help of an engineer. So we would have to take a team of engineers, and those engineers are going to survey what work has been done, and then they will decide based on technical information how much work has been completed. And the third case is proportion of costs. So you have to compare the cumulative costs which have been incurred to complete the work till date with the estimated total cost to arrive at the percentage of completion. Let us say the estimated cost, total estimated cost for the contract is 10,000. You have already incurred 8,000. Then we will say 8,000 divided by 10,000, 80% is the percentage of completion. But we cannot take progressive payments received from the customer or advances received from the customer as an indication of the stage of completion. So that is not possible. So we cannot take the advances or progressive payments as an indication of the stage of completion, because progressive payments are not connected to, we can say, the completion of the work. They are based on the payment terms. Advances, generally in a construction activity, contractor can expect some advance even without doing any work. So we cannot say that just because some progressive payments have been received, advance have been received, that means some work has been done. It may not be the case. Next, when proportion of cost method is used. So now a question comes, when I am using proportion of cost method for estimating the percentage of completion, what should be included in the numerator and what should be included in the denominator? The numerator is cost incurred for work done till date. Cumulative cost incurred for work done till date, that should be the numerator. What should be the denominator? The total cost for completing the contract. So total estimated cost for the contract should be the denominator. So what can be included? Cost representing work done can be included in the numerator. What cannot be included? If I have incurred some costs relating to future activity. Example, I have purchased some material, it has not been consumed, it has been set aside, it has not been installed yet, it will be installed, consumed in the next year. In such cases, the cost of metal cannot be considered as a part of the numerator. Okay. Then we have given some advances to a subcontractor for work to be done in the future. In these cases, these costs cannot be considered as part of the numerator for estimating the percentage of completion. They cannot be debited as an expense, they will be carried forward as an asset. What happens when the outcome of construction contract cannot be estimated reliably? See, there can be a situation where the contractor is not able to estimate what is going to be the outcome, whether it is going to be profit, loss, he is not able to estimate the outcome reliably. This will generally happen in the case of contracts which have recently started. Contract has commenced very recently. Very little work has progressed. In such cases, it may be difficult for the contractor to estimate the ultimate outcome of the contract now. In such cases, what the standard says is, let us be prudent, let us not recognize any profits, recognize revenue only to the extent of cost incurred. That means you are not allowed to book any profits. Okay. Contract cost should be recognized as expense in the period in which they are incurred. But the standard says if there are any expected losses on the construction contract, those expected losses should have to be provided immediately. Okay. So if you are not able to estimate the outcome reliably, what standard says is book revenue only to the extent of costs incurred. But if you know that you are going to get a loss, then you have to provide for it. Okay. Uncertainty about collection. Now what is this? Sometimes a contractor, let us take an example, a contractor has received a contract from a customer for construction of an asset. He has already done some construction activity and he has done some billing. That means there are some receivables. He has a right to receive some money from the customer. But customer is not paying the amount. There is a doubt whether he will pay the amount. That means it becomes bad debts for us, or he wants to provide for bad debts. So how should we deal with such uncertainty about collection? The standard does not require us to reverse the revenue which has already been recognized. It only requires us to create a provision for bad debts or provision for doubtful debts. You are not going to reverse revenue which has already been recognized, you are only going to provide for bad debts. Next, when outcome uncertainties are removed, so what may happen is, in the past we were not able to estimate the outcome reliably, but now we are able to estimate the outcome reliably. In such cases, what standard says is, you have to only give prospective effect. You will start applying percentage of completion method from the day you are able to estimate the outcome reliably. You should not start doing retrospective restatement. That is not required. You are going to apply only prospective effect. Impact will be there in the current year and in the future. It will not. You are not going to start correcting the accounts of the past as well. Recognition of expected losses. So every year the contractor has to estimate whether he is going to get a loss. If he estimates that he is going to get a loss, in such cases you have to provide for it immediately, no exception is provided. So even though, let us say, a contract work has just commenced, no problem. If you expect that you are going to get a loss, provide for it, irrespective of stage of completion. So whether it is 80%, 90%, 99%, if you know that you are going to get a loss, provide for it immediately. Third situation, a contractor may argue saying that one of the contract I am going to get a loss, but other contracts I am going to get a profit, hence I am not going to provide for the loss on a particular contract which I am going to get in the future. So this argument will also not be accepted. Even though you may get profits on other contract, if you expect to get a loss on this contract, you have to provide for it irrespective of whether you are going to get profits on other contracts or not. Okay. So irrespective of whether work has commenced or not, irrespective of stage of completion, irrespective of whether other contracts are going to make profit, if you expect that there is going to be a loss, you have to provide for it immediately. There is no exception provided to this rule. Changes in estimates. Now, what standard requires is every year the cumulative percentage of completion should be applied to current estimates of cost, current estimates of revenue to arrive at profits. That means if there is change in estimate of revenue, if there is any change in estimate of cost, it is going to have only impact in the current year, in the year of change, or in future. It is not going to have any impact on revenue which has already been recognized in the past, costs which have been recognized in the past, profits which have been recognized in the past. We are only going to provide prospective effect. So we will take current estimates of revenue, current estimates of cost, multiply with cumulative percent of completion to arrive at revenue to be recognized in the current year or in the future. We are not going to provide retrospective restatement. Now, there can be certain situations where contract costs have to be treated as an expense immediately. What are those situations? Some costs are incurred, we are not able to carry them forward, we have to book them as expense immediately. There can be certain situations. See, we are going to book contract costs as an expense immediately only when it is probable that the amount will not be recovered. So when you feel that what cost you have incurred is not going to be recovered, you have to provide it as an expense immediately. What are those situations? Let us see the situations. Contracts that are not fully enforceable, their validity is seriously in question, that means there is some litigation going on, the completion of which is subject to outcome of pending litigation or legislation, relating to properties that are likely to be condemned or expropriated, that means the building is going to be demolished. The customer is not going to accept that building, he is going to demolish it or he is going to expropriate it. and where the customer is unable to meet his obligation, customer is unable to meet his obligation, contractor also may not be able to meet his obligation, he may not be able to complete the contract. In such cases, if any contract costs are incurred, they have to be recognized as expense immediately. So in these conditions, there is a lot of doubt whether you will be able to recover the cost in the future. In such cases, the concept of conservatism, prudence requires us to recognize that cost as expense. See, cost can be carried forward as an asset only when it is probable that we are able to recover that amount in the future. When it is not probable that we will be able to recover the amount in the future, we have to debit it to P&L account. So in these situations where there is litigation, where there is doubt about enforceability of the contract, customer is not able to honor his obligation, we are not able to complete the contract, and there is some pending litigation. In these cases, whatever cost you are incurring, it may not be probable that these amounts will be recovered. In such case, you have to debit it to P&L account and not carried forward as an asset in our books of account. So this is what we have to discuss in this particular lecture. We have to discuss what are the different types of costs incurred, what is percentage of completion method, when can you apply percentage of completion method, if you are not applying percentage of completion method, how to do accounting. This is what we have to discuss in this lecture. Thanks a lot.